Oh, hello. How's everyone doing? Jake, Juhi, how are you?
Good, good. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, my name is Jake. I originally started in the entertainment industry and then have been in the marketing and UGC realm for the past 4 years. But in the last 6 months, I've been focused primarily on AI work and AI advertising, especially in the last few months as the tools have progressed. And yes, as far as my AI stance goes, like Savannah said, it's inevitable. These tools are advancing by the day. So I thought I might as well learn the tools and see what I can use, what I can't use. And there are a lot of limitations right now. So it's all about it. I guess I'm in the era of like experimenting with AI, seeing what's out there, how we can use those tools in advertising and marketing. But yes, we'll go through it in the presentation as to like what limitations there are as well.
And hello, I am Juhi. I have been in performance marketing for over 11 years now. I've spent over $850 million in performance advertising in the last decade. And yeah, I'm just really coming here also just from the brand side perspective because I've worked with brands on like being employed directly, but also I freelanced with about 25 clients last year. So I'm getting a little bit of a sense of how they're sort of approaching AI. Like everyone's keeping their finger on the pulse because they have to, but of course, there's some big downsides to using it as well. So we'll definitely come with that POV and share what I'm seeing as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake and Juhi. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Savannah Sanchez. My agency is The Social Savannah. I create UGC ad creatives for a variety of brands and apps across Meta and TikTok. So without further ado, we're going to dive into this presentation of how we are all using AI, some great examples of using AI, maybe some not so great examples too, so we can have some debate over whether these AI ads are effective or not. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So like Juhi and Jake mentioned, we've all worked with some amazing brands. Here's just a small list of some of the brands that we've worked with collectively across all of our experiences. I just want to make sure, Juhi and Jake, make sure you mute your mic as I'm going through this because
Yes.
there's a little bit of reverb. That's so much better. Okay, perfect. So one thing I wanted to say to start this presentation off was I wanted just to create a simple cover photo of this presentation so I can use it on my emails and social media. So Canva has a new AI feature. So I gave it my photo, I gave it details about this presentation, the date, the time. And I thought you guys would get a laugh out of the way that it came up with these examples. I mean, it looks like like an octopus hair. They didn't even use my photo. They used someone that looked like me. So when I see stuff like this, and I think we've all seen AI with like six fingers coming out and just crazy stuff, it's like, how could AI possibly make a good ad when it seems in a lot of ways it's still pretty behind? But I hope in this presentation we can show you some different perspectives of how brands are using AI on these very highly trained models and see what is possible beyond just some of this stuff that I've generated with no success.
That looks like something from the substance, but yeah.
Right? It is terrifying. I don't know what's going on here, but I was like, I just designed it from scratch. So for creative teams or anyone that is a designer, we're not being replaced yet. There's still such a need for designing and capabilities because AI is not quite there. So I wanted to talk about how I personally use AI in the production process for my UGC videos. I've done a lot of experimenting with different tools over the last year, and I want to share some tools that have actually been useful in the ad creative production process. So a quick overview of the tools that I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through some of my favorite tools to create voiceovers, language transitions, how we transcribe testimonials, how we clean up audio tracks using AI, how I use chat GPT prompts to help come up with scripts and shot lists. But I do want to say that for my ads I create with my team, I personally don't use AI to create scripts. Number one is because I find that it comes off really ingenuine. Like it looks like it's written by AI. It's very formulaic, which I don't like. And I also don't use AI avatars, AKA like fake UGC people talking. So I'm going to dive through these in a bit more detail. One thing I do use AI for that has been really helpful is by getting shot list ideas. So, for example, when I go and shoot with a creator to film a product, I will want to get certain shots like an unboxing. I want to get them using the product. I want to get them doing testimonial. And what AI can do, and I used Notion AI to generate this example, but you can definitely do this with ChatGPT or any AI tool, is give the tool a website and say, hey, write me a shot list to produce a UGC video with this website's information. And I simply just entered the website. And then as you can see in the example, you can also refine it. So I said, don't include messaging points, just include different shots we need to make a good ad. I go in and give it a bit more inputs. So I think the inputs that you give AI is really important to get what you want. So yeah, you refine the prompts by having it include or omit certain information. So this has just been really helpful because it will scan the website and learn about the product. And then it comes up with a pretty decent list of ideas of different shots you should get. So for instance, I will send this shot list to a creator and then they will film it. So great for generating ideas like this. You can also ask ChatGPT or any AI to collect customer reviews. Like if you want to give it your website and say like, hey, can you give me a summary of all these customer reviews? That really helps me in the research process. Or help me collect PR or different social proofs about this product, and it can scan the web and find that for you. Another way that I've been using AI is for language localization using 11 Labs. So 11 Labs is an AI tool that helps you generate voiceovers, and it's incredibly popular across brands and agencies right now. I will show you an example of how we did it for Built. This is the original video with our creator's real voice. So I'll play that for you now. So it's the real ad. There's no AI here. What we did is we asked 11 Labs to come up with a voiceover in Spanish with the same script, and I'll show you how that looked out. Basics.com. So that Spanish AI voice was completely generated by 11 Labs. And I think it's really helpful if you're trying to target different countries and you want to quickly get voiceovers of different countries. This has been a game changer. I would say I would try to have someone on your team double check it that actually speaks Spanish to make sure that the translation actually makes sense and that it uses words that are natural. So that's an example of how I've been using AI voiceovers for localization.
And it is performing, right? Like it's performing for a lot of brands that I've seen. I'm going to see if it's performing for you too.
Nice. Yeah. People can't tell that it's an AI voiceover from what I can tell anyway. But as you can see in 11 Labs, you can do text to speech. So I simply typed in like, estos son mis pantalones favoritos para todos los días. And you can choose like a Spanish sounding voice. So it has like Spanish tones. And then that's how you would generate it. And then it would come up with the voiceover. So 11 Labs is probably my favorite AI tool that I've been using. Another way you can use 11 Labs is by testing different AI voices for the hooks. So hook testing, as many of you know, it's really important on Meta and TikTok. So I'll show you two examples of different hooks that we generated.
We love Path Social, and it isn't hard to understand why.
And here's number 2.
If you want to become Insta famous, it's as easy as using Path.
So it just makes it easy to test multiple hooks without having to go to the creator and have them re-record multiple hooks because that's laborious on them. They don't want to do it. And if we can just run it through AI to get the voiceover, if we want to do hook testing, this has been really efficient. So here's an example of how to do this. You would write one hook, 3 reasons why I love loop earplugs. And then the second one, I can't live without my loop earplugs. And then you can choose the voice. You can play with the different stability settings, and it turns out pretty good. Another way that I use AI in the production process is by transcribing testimonials. So for instance, if you get like a 5-minute raw testimonial video from a customer and you just want to easily see everything she says so that you can give it to an editor to make a UGC ad with captions without having to have them listen and write down every single word, I use a tool called Otter AI. And you can upload any video file and it will give you the transcription. which I've found is really helpful when you are working with an editing team and you want to make generating captions much easier. Another really cool tool I've liked playing with is a completely free tool. It's called podcasts.adobe.com/enhance. Essentially, all you have to do is upload any audio file to this website. I think you just create a free account, is how I did it, and it will enhance the speech. So if you get a customer testimonial video or a UGC and their mic quality just wasn't quite up to scratch, you can just drag and drop it into here and the AI will clean up the audio and make it sound almost as good as if it was recorded in a podcast studio. That's how crispy it is. So would definitely recommend testing out this free tool to clean up any audio file. One example that I wanted to share is something that can't be done with AI. So Juhi and Jake are going to be sharing a ton of different AI examples, but there's still a lot of concepts that can't be done with AI just yet. So any type of try on, having the creator talking to the camera, showing different outfits, at this moment, it's just going to be really difficult to get AI to do this in a realistic way. Another concept that's working really well on Meta and TikTok for my clients are these skit style concepts, where it's the creator talking back and forth to herself, showing the products in different ways. And this is just something that AI can't do. AI can really just talk to the camera at this point. And then lastly, anything that's unique and cool. So like for this one for Shopify, it's almost like a dance routine of her putting on her robe, taking off her shoes, putting on her slippers, going inside the house, and then creating her store on Shopify. So any type of like creative, like scroll stopping, out of the box, like crazy ideas, that's all stuff that still has to be shot with a human and using the creative brain. These are also things that ChatGPT can't come up with. It can come up with ad scripts for like 3 reasons why and some like things TikTok made me buy. But to come up with something unique and cool like this, or like an interesting script, it still takes a lot of human brain power and humans to execute it. I do want to talk about a trend that I am seeing across all of my clients. People are asking for ads that don't look like AI. They want ads that are telling real stories, that are featuring real people, their genuine reactions to the product. I feel like there's almost like a counter AI movement happening at the same time. I don't know, Juhi, have you experienced this with the brands you work with as well?
Yeah, I mean, we are going to show some examples of this ahead, but I think people are still a little bit skeptical because of potential backlash that can happen when people realize that it is AI. So yeah, people are being a little bit careful, but I think that's why a hybrid approach, like you mentioned, where you're just using it a little bit, like maybe in the back-end process of scripting, or maybe using it just as a VO versus the entire thing being created, is basically like that's how people are dipping their feet into it right now.
That makes a lot of sense. Jake, thanks for sharing these videos. These are looking a lot better. I think it could be Canva, technology these days. And that's another point that I want to make. Why can't these technology companies just improve the softwares that they already have instead of trying to come up with the next AI latest and greatest thing? If we're having glitchy streams and glitchy internet, glitchy presentations, I just wish some of these companies would focus more on improving what we already have. But that's just a side take. Anyways, we can go on to the next slide. Alrighty, we're passing on to Juhi to learn how are brands currently using AI.
All right. So yeah, so I mentioned this, just a little bit earlier, but every time we talk about AI, we think, oh, it's like, oh my God, we're going to have models and we're going to have this and that, like all consumer facing. But actually, the reality is a little bit different at the moment because AI also is still very much in development. Like it's moving at a very, very fast rate, especially like when we hear in the news, like, DeepSeek made this model for cheaper, or like, oh, Manus AI has come out, and like we have these avatars, and like all that development and news is moving at such like lightning speed. But I think that what's happening in reality in terms of execution is things are moving a little bit cautiously and slowly, except on the back end operation side. That's a lot more easier, right? To have use cases that are like no brainers, like anything that saves people time, saves people money potentially, is very cumbersome to do as a task is a no-brainer. So, chatbots on the customer experience side have been around forever. They're just getting more and more enhanced and sophisticated. Deck creation, a lot of us, myself included, hates doing this. So I would happily use an AI tool to make it look prettier. Coding is actually a big use case because you can just train these large models to on very, very complex problems. And they can sort of help instead of racking your brain on trying to figure out like one piece, for example. Sales and outreach is a major one, I think, because it's such a manual process. And if any of that can be automated somehow, that's going to help a lot with efficiencies. This also helps with influencer outreach because, nowadays, like when you're doing influencer gifting and stuff, you're reaching out to hundreds and even in some cases, thousands of people. And only a few people respond out of that, like maybe like less than 5%. So for those kind of tasks, I think it is useful. On the flip side of that, though, you're probably going to get so much more spam than before because of how easy it is for companies to set this up. And then on the last thing, wanted to talk about annotations as well. I mean, some of you in the chat might be video editors and you're all familiar with annotations. Could be tremendously helpful, right? Because you're watching hours and hours of footage, which takes a lot of time. And if AI can just automatically label a lot of that, that makes your life a lot easier and increases productivity. You can move to the next slide. But what about creative? I know this panel, this webinar is all about creative. So let's talk about how brands are using it for that. So, Savannah talked about this a little bit, but transcribing and scripting, this is again a back-end task that happens. It's not consumer facing. So, like training models and even developing like custom models of your own on your past wins could potentially end up being like helpful in developing a flywheel or a swipe file for the future. And people are doing this and finding success after tweaking it. In terms of consumer facing, I've actually seen more people use statics rather than videos with AI. And this is more so because they already have flat lays of the product or they have photography, product photography ready to go, but they're using AI to enhance it. So changing backgrounds, using different types of fonts, like things like that has been sort of effective and actually also looks realistic because you don't have a person in there, like Savannah, you said, like there's no try on really happening. So it has been effective. And then in terms of localization, Savannah talked about this too, but like localization has saved people a lot of time. And then hook testing, altering lines has been big as well. But you do need explicit permission from the creator on that side. So yeah. But hot topic, what about AI avatars? So actually, these are being used a lot, but more in Asia and the Middle East. And like in Asia, like you probably noticed, but like if you've been to a lot of those countries, like China, Japan, and stuff like that, you'll see they were already using a lot of animation and like avatars in their advertising anyways from before. Like in Japan, for example, has a huge anime culture. So that actually like bled over into their advertising too. So it was much more acceptable from a consumer side to start seeing avatars, over there. But in the US, it's completely different. It's completely different, right? Like there's more possibilities of backlash and things. And we're also seeing affiliates. I mean, they're just the most crafty marketers out there. So they're using a lot of this in organic social accounts. And we'll show you some examples of that to go viral and just like sell Amazon products and like get a commission off of it. And then small businesses and drop shippers, they have small budgets and they want to be as efficient as possible. So they are using and experimenting this. They don't have that much of an issue with like worrying about brand safety either, because it's like a drop shipping company, so they're like much more comfortable doing it. You can see some examples here from TikTok, in China, where they're actually doing complete live streams with AI avatars. So that is the thing. Yeah, so this is typically used to save money. Some are created using prompts, but they're obviously more fake looking. You can look at the ones on the right there, which are like models for a fashion company potentially. But the way people are building these to make them look more real is they're actually cloning the likeness of a creator who signs their usage away. Then they're basically just altering the lines and things using lip syncs. So that's what's making them look a little more realistic. Yeah. Go next. All right, let's watch an affiliate ad example. All right, so that video, I know, Savannah, I saw you like fighting laughter the whole time that was playing. But this video, guys, has 10 million views on Instagram. 10 million. And there's tons of these, just different versions that we've put these examples of that you guys can watch later. And they have a lot of fake like misinformation. So there's a lot of legal issues and things potentially. And also, you saw how they did the brand integration, just like slid it in there like slyly, but it's there, right? And when you go to link in bio, it's like linking you to their an Amazon store where you can buy, and obviously they're making like a commission off of that. These kind of accounts are all over Instagram and TikTok right now, and they're using the exact same formula. It's always like, oh, I was the eighth wife, or I became a nanny to billionaires in Switzerland, or my sister worked as Zendaya's stunt double. I was like, wow, even Zendaya was inspired.
Sister worked as Zendaya.
Sorry.
Yeah, you guys can watch these later. But they're like sprouting all over, and it's
Maybe we just
very
play, like,
elaborate.
We could play like 10 or 15 seconds of each one.
Go for it.
Stunt double.
Yeah, so there's usually like a brand integration, like you like towards the end of the video, because by that time they've hooked you and got you watching the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, Kat, like what you were saying, you know, lack of trust and things. Absolutely, it definitely can. I think it needs moderation. There needs to be more rules around legalities of some of these things as well. It's just not there right now, which is why they're all over social media, but they do seem to be working. I mean, some of you commented in the chat, a lot of people think this is real and are falling for it. I saw some of my mom's friends actually following some of these accounts. So definitely, like, you know, people are, yeah. So yeah, just wanted to share, like, this is what's happening.
That is insane. So you're saying that these fake creators have accounts that they're posting these videos on too, but it's not just running as
it's usually like an educational handle, like it's like health tips or, you know, like travel hacks, or it's like that kind of thing. And it's not entirely like avatar based. So these are actually, they've probably taken usage from certain people and just changed the scripts via lip sync and voiceover. So I feel bad for the people who sign their rights away to be featured in this stuff, but yeah.
I would never.
Yeah, so let's talk about the downsides. I mean, we talked about, like, you know, how industry is moving this direction, so you have to like know about it and things like that. But like anytime you do put it in consumer facing, there is a risk of backlash. So here's some examples where it's happened with pretty large companies. So, you know, Meta released earlier this year some AI influencers, just a test if they can like build out different personalities and niches. And immediately there was backlash and they had to roll all these profiles back. So that's something that happened. You know, Coke generated an AI generated ad for Christmas, and it was actually a recreation of one of their really top performing campaigns from the past. And it got a ton of backlash all over. Then, you know, like Levi's actually tried to do AI imagery on their product detail pages on e-commerce, and they announced like a partnership with the company, and immediately there was backlash. And I don't think they ended up rolling it out. I'm not fully sure, but there was definitely like backlash around it. And then even in Hollywood, like if you look at what happened with The Brutalist, they just used a little bit of AI, like mainly for like speech modulation and things like that. And it just got a tremendous amount of backlash. The director actually had to make a statement saying it was not like used a lot and things like that, you know, before they went for the Oscars. So yeah, there is, I think it's leading to brands being a little bit more cautious and skeptical, especially when using it like on consumer facing, but definitely still keeping their eyes on it because they have to. You know, we're moving in that direction. And the other downside is risk of misinformation and impersonation. So, you know, it's deep fakes make it extremely easy to like take somebody saying something really nasty or something that they could get canceled for and just changing the face on it. So I think it falls a lot, like it puts too much responsibility on the social media platforms to ensure that this is moderated. And then fake news, there's possibility of a lot of that with this being created.
One thing I've seen in ads, I've seen them using Joe Rogan's voice as like the fake podcast and showing like his fake.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen some of those?
Yeah,
No.
I have too. And I know Joe has seen them too and also speaks out against it, but it's like there's so much data of him talking. It's so easy to clone his voice. That's why he's one of like the easiest ones that people are illegally cloning.
Yeah. So some key takeaways here. Brands still need to keep a pulse on AI because the industry is heading that way. What we're seeing also actually is more so than like AI replacing people. It's more so like people who know how to use AI might be replacing people. So I think there's more of a need of just learning it and upskilling it, regardless of how you feel about it, because it's just it's moving in that direction. It's like, refusing to exit out of desktop and moving into phones, for example. I think change is happening and we have to sort of at least learn it or learn about it. But then separately, they've started using AI to increase efficiency, though there's skepticism on the consumer facing asset side. There are use cases where AI can be used in creative right now outside the use of avatars. So we talked about voiceovers, we talked about using it in the script generation process, we talked about hybrid use, right? Like you could use it, you could record a lot of things in live action, but use it for VFX and things like that. And then AI will continue to develop and improve, but protections from impersonation, things like that, it's going to be absolutely necessary. I know from the artist side of things, I mean, Jake, you had also shared that a court recently ruled that you can have copyright over some of your AI work. But I think there's just legal side is definitely just going to keep evolving.
Yeah, so as far as the legal side goes, it's essentially there needs to be enough human creativity in whatever the product is. So if you're creating a brand and create an AI generated logo and you just use that, that's technically not copyrightable. So you definitely still need your human creativity side of things. You can't just input a prompt and get a video out of it. You actually do still need to be creative, which I think it's my turn to get into. So how can you create with AI? Like, I believe, or here, sorry, I guess I'll go over this slide first. So what tools exist? So we already spoke about UGC avatars. Some of them look extremely plastic and fake, as well as the audios. So 11 Labs, like Savannah showed, you can type in a prompt and get an audio, but you can also do speech to speech. So you can personally do the voiceover and then turn that into a different voice so that it's not always yourself speaking. So you can become an unlimited amount of characters in your videos and do the voiceovers yourself. But yeah, so if you want to take a screenshot of this, I believe we're also sending this to you after. But here are some of the tools that I personally use in my workflow. And the most advanced here would be Comfy UI. Comfy UI essentially is like, you know how Zapier automates by taking all of these different tools and creating a single workflow on your screen. So that's essentially what Comfy UI is. So if you're trying to do something really complicated with AI, such as having a product image and upscaling it to be 4K and then turning it into a video, you can like do all of that in one workflow in Comfy UI. That's a more advanced thing. But for now, we will go through, I guess, like the basic tools of how you can use AI in your ads, such as training a model on your product. So for example, this was Ash Ryan who trained a model on this dress. And what training a model means is taking like 5 to 30 images of your product, giving that to an AI to learn exactly all of the different angles and how it looks in an image. So that way you can reference, like, for example, product A, you can label it that so that whenever you say product A within your prompt, it will generate that specific product. So that's how to create images with your product. Or you can take existing images and easily composite your product into the image. So here are a few different examples. So as you can see, it's like this is an AI image. they purposely put this, I guess, drink there, knowing that in the post process, they were going to change it to this. And this could be done manually through a compositing process, but AI just makes it 1,000 times easier to just drag and drop your product essentially, and it'll match the lighting to whatever exists within this world. So here are a few more examples. And then you can also do it through the video process as well. So you can take a video and, for example, add anything to it. So here are a few clips adding different objects into videos. So for example, you can make this part of your hook. So let's say your hook for a video is like, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And there's a massive elephant behind you. You can do that now with AI and just have your own visual effects. And then here is how to swap different things in your existing footage as well. So you can swap clothes, you can swap bags, you can, once again, do visual effects, but easier with your existing videos already. And of course, these come with limitations. A lot of these softwares only give you 5 seconds of video. So it's not like you can change your clothing for the entire video. You would have to go clip by clip and break it down. So it may be a longer process if you're doing longer clips, but if you're just doing a short, like 5-second clip, it's extremely easy to do in a second. It takes like maybe a minute to generate one of these with a simple prompt.
I'll say some of the VFX stuff, like, I don't know if you guys saw a film called Here. It's got Tom Hanks. And basically they shot everything live action, but they de-aged him and aged him completely using AI. So they took him all the way down to 18 years and then scaled back like all the way up to like, what, 75, 80 in his 80s. And I didn't think it looked terrible, to be honest. I don't know what your thoughts are, Jake, but maybe those kind of use cases.
I definitely would think that it would work with AI right now. Sorry. So this is an example of Google just a couple weeks ago using AI for hyper-targeted ads. So they took all of the location data from where their digital billboards are throughout the city of New York and figured out exactly what events were happening around, what may be specific to that location, took that data, and then generated copy for each of the billboards as well as the image. So this image of whatever the product is also AI generated. So they just made that a simpler process rather than having to go through piece by piece, and rather they just approve different copy instead of generating it themselves, which may have taken a lot longer. So ways that you can use AI, Savannah also mentioned this, that you can use AI to brainstorm. I would not suggest it for actually scripting your content. It can become very generic and not creative. So strongly suggest you still have creative input. But as far as custom GPTs go, so a custom GPT is essentially a chat GPT like chat box, but with pre-existing knowledge. So you can train, it's not exactly training, but you essentially train it on certain things beforehand, before your conversation. So you can have a GPT specific for copywriting. You can have one specific for creating a shot list, like Savannah mentioned as well. Or if you are creating AI videos, you can also have an AI prompt generator so that you can have better prompts for your image generation process. So I highly advise creating specific GPTs for whatever aspect of the creative process you are doing. You can also take your existing images. I would say this is more for the image side of things. You can use generative fill to expand your images and change the aspect ratios depending on what platform you are advertising on. So here are a few hybrid ads, which are initially shot like a real production, but instead of using visual effects, which may cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, they use AI. So here is an ad of a car dreaming, and these are the visuals of what the car is dreaming about, all generated with AI. And then same with this other hybrid production that's currently going viral from Original Source. This one originally only shot 2 scenes, the scene of him in the shower right there, and then all of this is AI generated. Sorry, it doesn't have audio, but it eventually ends up in the office. And those were the only 2 real shots in this entire
Oh no, these videos broke, Jake.
no.
It lagged for a second, but you're back now. You're good. I was gonna say the videos broke you, but we still got the main thing.
Okay,
We got
awesome.
most of it.
Well, I will go on and hope that these don't break it too. So, as we mentioned before, UGC does exist, but it's very limited right now. Only talking to the camera, and here's just some examples of how people are using it, other than the stories that Juhi was showing us. So as you can tell, it's not the highest quality. The voiceover sounds robotic. The lip syncing isn't there yet. And these are all tools that are continually improving. So I've already seen a lot better lip syncing tools than that. And same with the voice generation, like that's improving daily. So as you can see, like this is a low quality UGC ad, but just an example of how they just overlay the UGC creator or avatar on top of whatever the ad actually is. And then this is one way that I actually do encourage you to use AI avatars. If you already have existing UGC content, not necessarily of the creators themselves, but of your product. If you already have B-roll, essentially, you can take that B-roll and add a UGC avatar to the intro, the hook, and then have a voiceover throughout the video as well. So this way you can already take your existing videos or photos and be able to easily generate a new ad using that. And then I just wanted to focus on, like, once again, the creative is the most important thing. Like, AI video is there, the quality is already there, but you'll see 90% of AI videos today, the creative is just terrible. Like, that's why a lot of AI videos do not pass the test of, like, is this real? Because the creators themselves aren't using it in a creative way to actually make it into an ad. And finally, the limitations. AI is very bad with complex motion. So when you're generating a video, you likely need to usually at least generate minimum of 5 videos in order to get 1 2-second clip that actually works. So it can be costly if you do use one of the higher models. So it is something to at least test, because it's not like actually that much. Higher end models cost 40 cents per generation for video, and that's like 5 seconds of video. So if you're generating 20 videos, then it can get costly compared to just doing UGC content on your phone and recording things that way. But of course, compared to these like higher end visual effects shots that would cost tens of thousands of dollars, it is definitely worth it in that aspect. And AI has a lot of, I guess, like inconsistency across scenes. And as we mentioned before, there's copyright and ethical concerns, which I don't think we need to expand on too much. I think we all understand that there's bad parts of the AI world as well. So yeah, I think we are opening it up to questions.
Yes, please post your questions in the chat. We've gotten some really good ones so far. I took a couple from LinkedIn that we got already. One of them was asking about, can your creative team be replaced by AI agents? And I put a screenshot of like one of the thousands of LinkedIn posts I see every day. Like, this AI agent replaces a $200,000 growth manager. So I'm curious to know, Jake, from your experience with these tools, do you think that the creative team, like, those jobs still exist? I mean, from what you've said, what I understand, it's really only as good as the inputs it gets. So
yeah, exactly. I don't think it can replace a team at all. So as you can tell, the process is still very human controlled. You need to generate the image, generate the video, edit it together, have all of the creative input from that side. And there are some companies that are trying to automate the entire process with an AI agent, and those videos are terrible. You definitely need to have creative input along the way and be able to, I guess, not replace your team with AI agents.
Simon asked in the chat if we have any tips for prompting realistic AI videos, since you mentioned so many of them are trash.
Yeah. So that comes down to what model for the image generator you're using. So the image generator is impacted more than, I guess, like the video generators, because video generators there's like 5 top ones like Kling, Sora, VO2, and then I personally use Pika a lot because I'm a creative partner with them. But yeah, I would say during the image generation process, it's a lot of the reference images that you have. So if you create like a mood board of whatever images you want the picture or video to look like, that way it can take those into account when generating the image for you. So for instance, if you're trying to create a UGC character with AI, you can import a bunch of UGC creators into the mood board, and then it'll take that into account when generating what the actual image should look like as well.
Really
Say on the static ad side, it's actually not that bad. You can take your product photography and just change out backgrounds and stuff, and it's actually not looking, it's looking good in a lot of cases and even testing well. On the video side, if you want to make it more realistic, I think the cloning, like getting likeness of somebody and then just changing the lip syncs is the way to go to make it as realistic as possible. Like 100% AI generated avatar is not looking realistic yet.
Yeah, so what she's saying by that, you can take a 30-second video of someone talking and replace their audio. So they can be talking to the camera like this, 30 seconds, and then you can generate a script, put it into 11 Labs, or say it yourself so that it sounds more realistic than an AI generated voiceover. And once again, use speech to speech, change that to another voice if you want. And then you can use a lip syncing tool like Kling AI and change exactly what they're saying.
Along those lines, I wanted to bring up Alicia's question of, do you think fully AI ads convert and why? I just wanted to quickly give my take here. I think this is why a lot of brands are coming to me and saying like, hey, we want to try stuff completely out of the box, something weird, something new, because the AI generated avatars, because they are so common now, they want to stand away from the noise. So I think that in terms of do they convert, I haven't seen any ad accounts where it's like just AI avatar videos, at least targeting the US, to where those are top performers. It's still using like regular models, regular stuff. But curious what Juhi's been seeing in the market as well, and Jake.
I mean, I would say like all the larger brands are all skeptical. Like they're too worried about the backlash. But as I showed you, I mean, those affiliate videos, they're out in the wild and they're racking up millions and millions of views. So clearly it is working and people are buying from that, like whether it's ethical or not, like that's definitely debatable, but it's performing. So
yeah, I would also agree. Like it is performing, especially if you're targeting people who aren't like too well versed with the AI stuff. Like I've seen a lot of people targeting older demographics on Facebook. And once again, like ethically, like I'm like, I don't really agree with that. But yeah, like you can definitely build out systems that work with AI. And AI is getting to the point where it won't be noticeable. Like I'm guessing you've probably seen videos yourselves that you didn't even notice was AI. And I think that will also like increase the, I guess, like level of the playing field for creative. Like I think like Savannah said as well, like the human side of videos is definitely going to be something that brands go after as well. So there will be more of the ads that can't be generated by AI. I think there will be this huge increase in creativity using AI, and then with that, an increase in like the human generated content as well.
I think they're a good complement to each other. Like I feel like it can help you with like iterations and get different types of content that's not just UGC. But it sounds like at the moment, it's like you need like a mix of both to really succeed right now. Like you shouldn't be totally anti-AI and not want to play around with these tools, but don't just like create all these AI avatar ads and expect them to convert.
Yeah, I agree. I guess the main takeaway from this webinar, I would say, is experiment with AI. Just see what you can and can't do. How can it improve your current process with like a hybrid workflow, and not just create these AI UGC avatars and have everything automated.
I like that. Jake, a question for you, and then I'll pass it to Juhi to answer too. George says, for a creative team that uses no AI, what 3 tools would you recommend to get started or must-haves?
The 3 tools, image-wise, I would use Midjourney. because it's just very user friendly and creates the highest quality images right now. Video wise, Kling is the top video generator right now using image to video. There are like straight text to video generators that may do better, like VO2 or Sora, but Kling is the best when you're trying to take an image and animate it. And then it'd be 11 Labs, just because voiceovers and voices are so important.
My recommendations also like thinking about like more on the back end side of things too, in terms of scripting, iterating, research, things like that, which are a lot easier to get into AI with. Like taking your reviews files and just having it summarize it into like key selling points, for example, could be something that saves your team a lot of time. And then just even like going through tons of TikTok ad comments and Instagram ad comments, that could help as well. The annotation piece I think is really important for video editors. So I would look into those as well.
For mine, 11 Labs is like my go-to for if I'm going to create a AI generated voiceover. I will say as a caveat, I would say for like 90% of the ads we create, we're still using like real creators talking to the camera using their real voice. What I found it helpful for is just like for the language transcribing, or let's just say like a creator messed something up, like she pronounces the brand name wrong, or we want to just try a different hook, then we will type in like the alternate hook into 11. But it still sounds, maybe just because my ear is so like in tune with it, like I still think it sounds like a robot. So I always prefer if we can get a real voice, and that's where we do like 90% of our ads. Someone in the chat also asked if there's a specific tool I use for UGC scripts. Like I mentioned, I don't write scripts with AI because I think that they all sound the same and they're really generic. So I have some team members that are copywriters I rely on to still write scripts. It's crazy, right? Like I'm still using real human copywriters in 2025. Who am I? But that's the process that's been giving me the best results. One other question that I wanted to bring up to the group was, how do you respond to the UGC creator that are accusing you of hurting the environment by using AI? So I think there is a lot of creator concerns here. We've talked about like dubbing a creator's likeness. I feel like that's something that is extremely problematic, or changing their voice to say something different. I'm curious to get both of your perspectives on how we can like keep the creator economy like honest, and how we prevent bad actors like this from going crazy with these AI avatars and voice manipulation.
I would say from my perspective, I think the governments are, and like regulators in general, are just caught up with too many things right now to focus on that. And I think it's going to take something very bad for people to actually take it seriously. So I think there will be some bigger lawsuits. Like everyone has seen some bad actors in the AI space, and it makes a really bad name for people who are using AI in proper ways and trying to use it to like improve their creativity. But yeah, I think there will be some bad outcomes with AI, and then hopefully that sparks more debate and more just like overall regulations that come along with it. And that's not even from the government only. I think also these platforms, I know that they are adding like AI generated tags to some of their content. And I think that will be one of the bigger ways that it comes as well.
There's actually a question in the chat that I actually have for you also, Jake, and that is, how can I generate the same face in images and videos for a movie pitch deck or a teaser to generate interest?
Yes. So there are several ways. The easiest way right now would be with like Midjourney's character reference. So you can reference a character with one image or multiple, but it's not always the best. It gets like 80% there. If you have like a super generic face, sometimes it will perform better. But there are more advanced ways, like using Comfy UI to have a consistent character. So you would need to, just like the product, how you would train an AI on your product, you would instead train it on a specific character, so that instead of like product A, it's character A or whatever their name is. And you can then reference that when creating your images. So those are like the two main ways. And then there's also ways where you generate the image first try to get it to look as close as possible to the creator that you're trying to, or like the actor that you're trying to replicate. And then you go into Comfy UI and essentially face swap them.
That's really cool. One funny comment I saw in the chat from Alicia, you brought up that people aren't super well versed in AI. So does brain rot AI work? And I want to quickly answer this before I bring it to the group. I would say, okay, yes, it maybe does work for a small portion of the population, like we mentioned, the elderly. You can make your own judgments on the moral issues there. But I would say for a lot of the brands I work with, there is a lot of concern about brand safety. Even if an AI avatar ad can make money in the short term, how does that damage the brand perception? Does that, if someone recognizes, hey, like the mouth's off from the voice, like this is an AI robot, how could I possibly trust this brand that they're giving a testimonial saying, oh, the supplement works so well, and they realize it's an AI bot? So brand like tarnishing, I think that cost needs to be baked in. It's not just the cost of generating the AI avatar, it's the cost of that brand trust that brands spend years building up, and it can be destroyed with one bad campaign. One thing I also wanted to mention too, maybe in the short term, you can create 1,000 different ads replicating a UGC creator's likeness. And maybe in the short term, that gets you incrementally a bit more scale in your ad account. But your relationships with creators, especially the ones that are performing well for you and creating content for you, those are worth their weight in gold. I really don't think a creator is going to appreciate if you replicate her ad with 1,000 different ways that she's moving and saying things that she doesn't believe in. You're going to not only maybe get in legal trouble with that creator, but damage that relationship. And having great relationships with creators to get ongoing content is such valuable currency in this marketplace. So that, I'm off my soapbox now, but wanted to pass it to Juhi and Jake for their perspectives too.
I agree with that. I said it before, like I worked in the UGC space as well. Like I would agree that it can damage your brand. Like it depends on what your brand is. Like if you are like one of those videos that were selling like the spray for a car, like if you just have like a simple Amazon storefront type thing and you're just trying to promote that one product, like sure, like, your brand isn't as important as something bigger that it's not just a quick storefront for a couple products. So yeah, I would agree. It depends on what like your service or product is.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add is there has been a big rise in faceless accounts on social media. I'm sure you guys have seen this all over the place, but there's a lot of platforms like Faceless Video and Video, for example, that will just automate a lot of this. Like you can just create an account and you can choose your niche and stuff, and then it'll just post for you every day. So it could be like some sort of motivational video, or it could be like some sort of about like comic books or like any niche really, and you don't ever have to show your face or anyone's face in it. It's all AI. So you're going to see a lot of this, and it is working right now. But what's happening is because this has become so easy to create, like there's millions and millions of accounts being created like this, right? It's going to increase the amount of shit content we see on social platforms, and eventually people are going to get fed up of it. So I think that is also a risk there, but for now, in the short term, yeah, it's working. People are watching it.
Yeah, I agree. As this becomes more popular, sorry, it will be very oversaturated very quickly because of how fast AI can do it. So I think the style of AI content will be noticeable soon, and creators will specifically create content so that it doesn't look AI.
Two more rapid fire questions before we sign off. I saw a couple people in the chat asking about the icon tool. Jake, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yes. So Icon is a newer, I think it released like maybe a month ago. So what they're trying to do is incorporate UGC avatars as well as like a chat GPT specifically for UGC ads. So I know someone also earlier mentioned a question like, how do you find UGC scripts? So that's one thing that Icon is trying to do, is create a GPT specifically for that. And then they're creating like an automated editing essentially for brands who already have like content. So if you already have like a content bank of B-roll, you can import that to Icon and automate the editing. So that's what they say. I've tested it, and like the UGC ads are like, the scripts are okay. Like they're also trying to be like this premium product that I think costs more than it should. So I'd be interested in at least like testing it for now, but I think most brands don't really need that type of tool right now. You can test it out, see if it is something that works for you. But for now, I don't think that it's as all encompassing as it wants to be.
Yeah, I saw some people in the chat saying Icon isn't the best, to be honest. Simon also said that brands should be honest when they use AI. And I couldn't agree more with that. So we're at time. I want to thank everyone who joined us live. A huge, huge thank you to Jake and Juhi for coming on here and spreading so much knowledge. I've learned so much from both of you and excited to continue the conversation. I feel like this is just the beginning of AI mixed with ad creatives and UGC. I think that you're a fool to not be testing AI. I got that message loud and clear today, but also you're a fool to replace all of your UGC creators with AI right now. So finding a good balance in the middle and finding tools to get more efficient, I think is going to help all companies and brands out there. But just learning how to use these tools and giving it good inputs is really the key to continuing to be creative. It's all about how you use it. I will absolutely email this out to the people who are subscribed to my newsletter. So if you're not subscribed, make sure to go to my website, which is thesocialsavannah.com, and subscribe to my newsletter at the bottom. If you're already subscribed, I will definitely email it out to you in the next couple of days. And I will include the deck along with the replay so that you can watch all the videos and click out to the great tools that Jake described today. So thank you everyone for joining. Thanks again, Jake and Juhi. Any other final thoughts that we want to leave the audience with?
For now, I just say experiment. Just see how it can improve your current process. But yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that. And yeah, I would just love to get like some feedback from the audience. If you like this, please comment AI. See what I did there in the chat.
Yes, please do. Thank you all for joining live today. And please don't hesitate, connect with us on LinkedIn. Juhi and Jake are both active on LinkedIn. So definitely connect with them to stay updated on what's happening with digital marketing trends. And feel free to email me if you want to suggest a future webinar topic. Juhi and I were just so excited to talk about AI since that's been so hot on LinkedIn. And we're so lucky to bring in AI expert Jake to really just dive into all things AI, so much knowledge. So I feel like this was such a great informational session. And we would love to host more of these if you guys are interested in other topics.
Yeah, I'm actually going to hire Jake to do a live webinar where he actually does a live demo on how he uses these tools. So if you want to join that, I'll definitely be posting that on LinkedIn and you can RSVP there. And then separately, if you're looking for like a 1-hour consult or something, Jake also makes these videos for people. So definitely feel free to use him as a resource and pick his brain.
Definitely.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.